We want you to arrange your props so you have a bolster in the center and it's horizontal, and your block is right in front of the bolster and it's flat, right? It's at its lowest setting. Go ahead and kind of sit yourself on that stuff. It doesn't have to be properly arranged yet, but as far as your sitting position, I almost fell off of that. Take the belt so it's in a big loop, it's at the back. Okay, so you got a couple blankets and quarter folds stacked behind you. You might be near a wall, which I hope you're near a wall for this class, because you're going to want a wall to push into and adjust your form. So the pathway in the beginning is in upper respiratory support. So I want you to feel if your feet are at the wall, option. Not always my favorite thing, but some days I like the feet at the wall. So I want you to emphasize where the seat is on the block, your tush should be blocked. Your ribs, your lower base of your back is on that bolster. So the bolster is really working the low back, the centerpiece of the body. And then feel when you get your sand and you lift that sand and you can place it across the front of the thighs. If your back is kind of yelping at you a little bit, you might have your knees bent for a little bit longer. And that's okay. Today, this feels better to have my knees soft for the moment so my back can kind of ease into this release. So it is a back bend, right? It's a chest opener. But as we work with the chest stretching out, you can have sand here or sand up across the rib interchange. Okay, so you decide. Open out the chest by letting the elbows drop down, and then decide if you want 1 or 2 blankets under your head. Okay, if you're feeling that your chin is sliding down towards your chest, you need 1 blanket. If you can have the head tilted back so it's comfortable through the neckline, then go with the 2. You decide. Reach back for your belt, holding on to it so it is in that loop still, and so it's reinforced. That's the idea, it's a reinforced belt. Holding and sliding your hands out, really broaden that circulation through the chest, and maybe let your head nod side to side, taking a deep breath in through the nose. Let the abdomen move with the breath. Create that abdomen. And on the exhale, feel the centerpiece of the body relax back towards the props. The lower back will ease with the expression of the ribs, continuously moving with the breath. So my hope is that this movement of breathing doesn't just open up the front, but you can cater to the back zone as well. So what I like to do sometimes is let my feet step a little wider and then slide the legs to straight, to reaching down. So it's okay if the feet are out versus closing in. Now test the movement concentration in your body. So taking some options to feel how they are closer, feel how they are farther apart, and then breathing slow and feeling that abdomen move with the breath. You know, you can slide your hands out on the belt so the arms relax on the floor, or you could keep that tone in the arms. But instead of creating like an effort or tensifying focus with the hold of the belt, feel if the belt encourages that deeper breath. So if I hold the belt and breathe deeply, it's a little different than if I let my arms relax out and breathe deeply. Little different, it's so subtle, but you might notice the circulation in that upper respiratory when you have some managed pulling with the hands. Okay, now relax the grip off the belt And if the sand is on the front of the thighs, you're going to move it up to the ribs or toss it. Okay. Then bring your feet into cobbler's pose so the knees are apart and the feet are together. And the hips might try to kind of shift a little side to side, but feel if you can kind of plug into it. So when the feet are touching, if you move them high up, it actually might cater to more comfort sometimes in the back. Even though you might perceive, oh, my feet farther towards the base of my mat is easier, I want you to try to spend a moment feeling your feet kind of scoot up towards the groins, right? Stimulating that circulation in the lymph flow. And with the arms open, the elbows clearly have to bend. And with the elbows bending, the hands are straight back in cactus. Sand or no sand, it's completely your choice. But in these first few shapes and movements, emphasize the concentration of balancing the back support with the chest and rib releasing. And it's clearly about the breathing exchange to loosen up the fibers right in the body, not just the props that hold that support. Okay, now with the arms centered, it kind of helps center the heart area with the openness of the arms. Okay, feel the knees and their motion up. Now, if I move the knees to point up, my adductors, right, they have to kind of gently lift up towards the knees, right? And so when I shift, I want you to plant the feet apart so that you think that the toes are towards the wall. Let's hope so. And then slide off the sand, reach for your belt, hold on to it a little wider than shoulder width. Okay, and then lift up the belt towards the ceiling and also move the right knee in towards the belt. Don't worry if the knee goes anywhere closer and then it just happens to. It's fine. So alternate the arms back, inhale, and exhale, left knee now towards the belt towards the knee. Okay, so coordinate this with the feel of the props below you, and there might be some movement of the back flesh when you're obviously extremity in motion, okay, arm extremity, leg extremities. And feel if you can pick up the pace a little bit with this so that the warming of the back occurs, a little bit more warm up from physical warm up, even if your room is warm. Okay. So as you move the knee in, kind of moving the needle, right, as far as the warmth in the body. So next time you alternate with that motion of the arms back, the feet down, feel if you can let the arms they're still lifting, so there's still tone in the arms. Feel the back muscles press into the bolster, the parts that are near it, and the arms stretching farther back and farther back. Head relaxes on the blanket. Okay, keeping the arms back, move the right knee in towards the center, opening through that right side of the back. This should feel really basic. Okay, and then bring the right foot to the left knee, the right ankle to the left knee, and the right knee swings out. Relax the abdomen. Okay, now feel when that right knee is in that kind of positional reach. It's kind of as close to a knee reach as you're going to get, isn't it? Okay, so feel how that knee reaches out and try to stay with holding the belt. If your wrists get tired or your thumb or anything, you can always just kind of give a little release of the fingers open and then try it again. Okay, now You're going to move the right knee out to the right side. I know your foot is kind of stuck on your left knee, but it won't be in a moment. So push into your left foot and let that right knee just kind of move open, and then making some circles with that right knee. So you're going to rotate through the hip joint, but there's nothing the foot's pushing into now. It's just in air. Okay, and then just step the right foot down, shift sides, left foot up, bring the left ankle to the right knee, left knee releases open. There might be some differences, of course, but give it about 30 seconds and feel if both sides of the back are able to rest into the bolster. Yeah, your right side might be, slightly less pressure because that left knee is pushing out. So now when you move the left foot off of that knee, I want you to just try to make sure that the whole back can stay pressing back and down. You're not trying to sit up yet. So lifting and rotating that left leg and the hip. Okay, holding the belt can be a mild amount of intensity here. And then as you position the left foot down it goes. Let go of the belt, release the arms, and then I want you to roll left and move the block carefully so it can go overhead. Roll left, and then position that arm between the bolster and the blankets, and then get a ball. If you've got one, you're going to put it on the inside of that right thigh. And then if you have a sandbag, you're going to add it. Now this is where it takes a few moments to customize it. So kind of feel if the sand on the hip is a nice balance for your muscle matter to kind of ease your back. I like this because it smooths out this lower extremity kind of bulk, right? Because it tends to contract a bit when you're walking, your flexors. So feel how that left thigh is next to the bolster. And then as you lean into your blankets, you decide how high they should be. If this feels too low, you can wad up the blanket, make it a little bit more comfortable. You don't want your head too high so your chin is moving towards your chest, but making the effort so that your neck is resting. And then get that block. Okay, adapt. So I tend to have the block pretty high. Otherwise, it feels a little pinchy in my shoulder, and it still can sometimes feel pinchy. So if it's pinching, right? If you feel a pinch in the just on that outer line and it's starting to go in the front to the outer, I would be a little caution there. So if it's too pinchy, work on opening the chest for this time. Okay, armpit, chest open. So it might be kind of in air versus trying to touch something. Okay. What's interesting about this zone is if you had some, sand here, it generally reduces that pinchy kind of fluttery feeling in the joint. So if you have weight here, it would be helpful to kind of smooth out the seams. But it's kind of awkward to try to put that sandbag on. It might cause another area to hurt. So working with the movement cycle, if your breath is moving high up inside, just feel where it's comforting. You don't have to exaggerate your breathing. That's kind of the thing at home practice. You probably don't exaggerate too many of your poses or challenge yourself too much. So noticing what's useful for circulation. That's kind of it. This should be helping your circulation. And the arm could be down by the side. If your arm goes overhead and it tingles and then it's asleep, that's not any good. Yeah, we don't want it. A numb arm, that's not the therapeutic advantage in this class. Okay, take a few moments here. Eyes relaxed. Breathing. If you tend to roll down to the side of the head or roll to the back, Notice that just the movement of your brain can affect how you relax your neck. Okay, now we're going to just feel movement in both hips and glutes. So when you roll your weight left, you might move the sand off first over to the right side. And when you come up, feel where you can use your bolster under your elbows. So that's going to be moving towards the foot of the mat. So you're going to turn towards the feet. And, height is different for everyone. So for what works for me, might not work for you. So you might go, that's a nice idea, but now I'm really rounding too much. So what you could do is put a blanket on top of the bolster too. Okay. This works good for me because I'm short. So if you're lower on down and you're kind of rounding, then put a blanket for the shorts. Okay. Knees are going to go side to side, windshield wiper. Feet are as wide as the mat. That can be challenging, right? So having the feet closer to the edge of the mat, for me, I can just barely get that and be realistically capable of moving my knees side to side. But the effectiveness of circulation into the glutes is a big deal. So this is oftentimes called glute rocking. Or maybe that your glutes feel like they're rocky. Or they have rocks in them and they're feeling a little bit tense. So you can go slow and you can also pick up the pace. And there's nothing that says that momentum isn't helpful to loosen up those rocks. Okay, so feeling, maybe you're able to glide the knees over and just kind of keep movement. We're not going to stop the knees in this pathway. Okay. All right. So bring the knees over towards the right. Okay. Now bring the right leg up to the bolster. Get ready for side sage on this side. Focusing on support with the ball on the inside of the left knee for some of us, not everyone. The right foot can kind of push into the ball on occasion if you need to kind of adapt the support as you're in the position. And then release the right side down. Get that sand, probably similar side. Now, as I mentioned last time with the sand on the side, this can be helpful. Now, if you try to get it up here, it's just kind of tricky to get that there. And then once it's there, if you need to get out of it, it's pretty easy to toss the sand. But yeah, I find this one really interesting for my shoulders. You might be surprised. I could have some issues with these ligaments. Just the tissues here can just have this kind of frightening, mysterious grippiness and response in your nervous system. So the sand, I think, could be useful. Maybe not up that high for you, maybe just on the side. It's going to be on the side anyway, huh? Because you're in a side pose. So lean into the bolster like you're just mashing it, and you just let all your weight go onto that bolster. And when you're reaching, let the weight of your head center. And you could use a round bolster for the side sage anytime. You can always swap out for one of those. That's helpful. But this is good too. If you wish you had a round bolster, but you don't, you can always put another blanket on top of the bolster when you're in this pose to create more lift in the ribs. Now come into the shape and feeling what's letting go. And where the breath momentum is in the center of the body. Now, when the spine is in this reach, right, it might not feel like whatever a normal spine stretch is in your mind, which is probably a forward bend. But this is a really great shape for a lower back care. Side sheath, lateral awareness in the body. So the sides are stretching. Okay, now when you do motion towards the bolster with your chest, you're going to roll to the right. And this time you're going to come around to the knees. And, you know, these props kind of have to be moved around a little bit. So I want you to move the bolster so it's straight underneath you. And you might be facing, who knows which way, looking at the screen. But I'll be very clear where we're going. If you're near a wall, use it behind your feet, or at your feet. And make this first one really cozy. So you're just going to lean down into the bolster, kind of like a little surfboard here. You're going to lower down the chest and the elbows are wide. This is really important here. So your elbows are out. If you can't really tell what that is, so I'm prone on the bolster, but my elbows are out. They're not forward, they're not back, they're out. So this whole area in the armpit chest can gently stretch. It's just about gentle. It's not about, you know, forcing and prying your elbows that direction. So forehead is down on your hands. Your feet could touch the wall. I prefer that on this. They don't have to be pushing and forcing the knees off the ground yet. Sometime we'll get there. But feel how the amount of body weight down onto the props can support releasing your back. Resting, right? It's restorative. So forehead down. Yeah, you might play, excuse me, you might play with your foot position. You might have the toes in, you might have the feet touching the wall, pushing. So let's take about another 10 breaths here. Even rocking a little back and forth, massaging through the abdominal area. Okay, now feel where the feet can now touch the wall. So you'll slide the hands and everything is kind of a slow mo here. So as I put the hands on the floor besides my bolster, you don't have to move your head side to side unless you really feel you have to see the screen. But if you can look down towards the blankets, feel your elbows like they're moving down by the sides. Elbows are down. It's like when you have expression with your shoulders to move downwards, but not rounding forward. Incredibly challenging, right? To not let them slump down. It's a lot of skin work, right? Your flesh, this whole area in the mid body, the fascia really has to act on this one. So push the wall with the feet. This is too much digestive challenge. It is a lot of pressure in the digestive system. You can always get a little more neutral and let your knees be on the ground. It's pushing a bit there. So I want you to lift up. Now, instead of pushing firm with the hands, stretch the arms by your sides in locust pose. The feet push the wall, the shoulders track back, the chest centers forwards. Breathing. Yeah, this ought to feel extremely dynamic in the whole spine. From the spine to the paraspinals. Push the feet so the knees are off the ground. Try. If you need to take a break or step away, anything, that's fine. But these are ones I sometimes do like to take breaks when I take a Zoom. Okay. Baby back bends. So hands on the floor. Lift the chest. Careful, if my knees are a little bit up, it's more back energy. So if my knees are down, it's a little easier on my back. Okay, let the torso stretch. Okay, now feel that, how the torso stretches here. So when you come back to table, now is the time to grab one of the blankets and slide it back to your knees. You could just kind of put it up on the thigh. No, it won't stay. I realize it won't stay that direction on your leg. But when you just kind of let go of it, and then you can bring your knees on top, it usually works pretty well. So hands, knees, round the back into cat. Inhale, arch the spine. So alternate movement of the spine, chin towards chest. Inhale, arch the spine. Chest is forward. Exhale, rounding the back. Inhale, arching. Let the fingers stretch open, taking 2 more. So there's this movement of the back that, so if you don't do this for a while, it does feel like you can't quite get that rhythm between the vertebrae and the roundness moving through the chest forward and back. This is a great homework one. Okay, now that we've done plenty, I want you to move the props around, so you're going to have a couple blocks to the front towards away from the wall. And we'll take a first moment where we reach our hands, so the hands are a little wider than shoulder width apart. So your hands are wide, and you're going to turn the hands out so it's more that your index fingers point towards the back of the mat here. Now lift up the knees and tread a little bit with the feet. So step slightly away from the wall, alternate the bend of the knees, and then give your circulation in your chest and your neck permission to relax towards the floor. Ooh, that could be a little challenging because it's all connected, right? Even if your legs are moving, and the upper body is going to move a little bit too. Step the feet so that the heels are up at the wall or the heels are down at the floor. Right? That might not be an easy position for your feet, so you can have them a little bit up. And just feel where the flesh in the upper body has challenge. Okay, just notice this one, that when your hips are up and you're in a downward dog, that there is a different challenge in the wrists, but it's a similar circulation to a standing forward bend. So step the right foot and the left foot to the hands and taking that standing forward bend. Of course, it's a little different for the arms now because they don't have to push away. So you might put your hands to your blocks. And I kind of like this version for my chest muscles, a little bit more reach, and definitely for my spine. Some of you are going to be very content with a deeper forward bend here with your hands clutching the legs or clutching the elbows. But take a forward bend so that the head is below the heart. And some people will have exceptions and find that they need the head level with the heart, just because of blood pressure, right? So you find what works for you. And let's take a couple moments here where the movement of the legs is a wide stance, so a little wider than hips distance. Yeah, you might feel the circulation in your sinus area a little challenged here, a little flushed around. Okay, now bend through the legs so you can feel how bending the legs in this shape affects your back line, right up into the back. Reach for the blocks, have them off of a blanket so they won't fall around. And then I want you to step the feet so they scoot in towards each other. And we'll take the left foot back to the wall. So if you are now just getting to a wall space, this is the time to be at a wall for this part. I think you'll be happy to have it. Not incredibly essential, I suppose. You could do this without it. Okay, it's just a prop. So shift the right knee so it's above the ankle and feel that left lower leg part. Just kind of notice, it's not just a part, I know, it's the fascia is what you're feeling. So feel how the heel is a little bit up. So you can kind of spread the ball of the foot. So I find if my heel is down on the back leg, the ball of the foot is it's a little boxed up, a little bit more squished. So if my heel is up, the roots of the toes can kind of stretch a tiny bit more. Okay. So I want you to keep that heel lifted and it's pushing into the wall. And then you have your block supporting besides your right foot. Okay. First things first, check that the legs are in two different tracks, not the same one. And balance, so the right hand moves back to the sacrum, and you're just going to twist to the right so you're turning your chest towards the sky. Okay, feeling that turn of the waist, and then turn down to look at the right knee. If it goes out with you, try to stabilize it so it's back towards the ankle. Mine does it too. Keep it there, stay knee, and then turn to the right again. Yours might be just perfect. Okay, lift the right arm up. Find an angle for the arm that's reasonable for your shoulder. And so it might be towards the other side of your mat over your head. Now this is the traditional variation, right? As the arm reaches here over the side of your face. This is different, moving it back. So sometimes I go, oh, I don't know why we did this version, right? This makes anatomical sense. It's fun to play around with it, but then feel why it might work. Okay, now let's bring the hand back to the sacrum and then turn. Now, if your knee still was kind of trying to move out, lower your hand to your block and then pivot. Actually, let's keep the back foot reaching to parallel still, but see if you can lower the back heel. If it hurts too much or you just, the calf is overheated with that, then don't worry about it. But I do want you to try to lift the right foot up, the toes up, so the heel is down, toes are up, and you're going to alternate this. Okay, so you'll lower the right foot, inhale, lunge, knee is just above the ankle. So if you need to step your foot a little farther forward, do it. And then exhale back. Okay, so for me, the heel at the wall lifting is probably better. It just feels a little more comfortable today. So alternate, right foot, toes up, flexing, and then knee just above the ankle and feel the back knee kind of drop down. Okay, now take the next three of these so it's at your own pace, but I would be very calculated in your attempt to manage that back foot. So when I just kind of rock and roll with it, my back foot is kind of pivoting the heel to the left. So I need to stay connected. Last time. Okay. All right, so get a feel here of the toes up on this right foot. Lower the foot down. See if you can step the left heel towards the floor. Just give it one more try. I know that lower leg part can be tense. So just work with it. You might feel the ball of the foot press. You might lift the heel back up at the wall. Okay, now step the left foot. Now you can step it to the right foot, so they're side to side. You could step it behind the right big toe, the right heel. Some people like to do this version. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go feet next to feet, that's fine, foot to foot. Just kind of play with it. So feel that you rest your balance into the roots of the toes, the ball of the feet, and the heels. And you can kind of wag your tail a little side to side. Bending the knees would be better. If I can bend the knee as I kind of wag my tail, a little better for my lower back. Okay. So good little adjustments for our circulation. Little spring cleaning going on in the body. Okay. All right, now center so the hands reach the back of the legs and relax your head down towards the floor. This might not be relaxed, but feel that circulation. Okay, hands back to the blocks besides your feet. Step the right foot back. Okay, and just feel how that heel is a little bit up at the wall. The left knee is bending to start. Okay, and you know, maybe that pivot for the back heel is good for some people. So it's not like a one direction fits all thing anyhow, huh? So my right hand is on the block, my left leg is now starting to lengthen, and you're going to just work on levelizing the pelvis, even though you have a leg stretching in front, right? So the pelvis is a little off balance. Left hand to the sacrum. And then slowly, yeah, feel what turns. Is it your torso or is it your hip? Okay, try to get the torso to turn. This is a little challenging if you're short, I find, because I don't know what it's like to be taller, but you know, find this muscle circulation right from the hip, the leg parts, and then getting that waist to pivot. Yeah, left arm could stretch up. It could go over towards the left side of your face. Yeah, get a feel. So a little bit more with the standing work, not much, but get the feel of rotation and breathe. It only helps to breathe. Okay, now feel when that left arm lowers to the sacrum, and then pivot the waist, even if it was small move. Hands on blocks, both of them. And then shift the left knee to that lunge, but feel how that right foot kind of moves away from the wall for that moment, huh? And get a feel for that motion. Alternate left foot toes up, inhale forward. This is more free play here. So it's not entirely an improv, but you want to feel how there's movement with the hips down and then movement with the hips straight back towards the wall. So it could be small movement, it could be larger, but feel the reaction of the knee and the bulk of the leg on that left leg. You want to feel more than just the joints kind of slip and slide. You know, it's like, oh, I want to push into my foot and really feel the action of the leg when I'm operating it, at least for this moment. Okay. Yeah, we probably drop into the joints a bit more than necessary. So feel muscle that's there. Okay, this time we're going to lean back so the right heel lowers either to the floor or just up onto the wall or the base board if you've got that. Left foot toes are up. So give it a moment, heel down, toes up, stretching the calf. Breathe. And feel where there's a balance through that left foot when the toes come back down. So the leg is going to bend through the left knee. The back heel might screech to lift up, screeching ankle. Okay, lower the right knee this time. And then step the left foot back and taking the hands on, actually let's go minus blocks here, yes. Block removal. All right, so hands stretching forward, come into more of a heart opener. Hands are stretching out to the edges of your mat, hips back, chest down, maybe forehead down. Okay, I think this chin forward is just too much on the neck, personally. So forehead touches, the hips are reaching. Okay, now you could have the knees wider and the toes close-ish, as close as they can be, close-ish. And work on a child's pose. But I like this to be kind of a melting child's pose, isn't it? A big stretch through the branches of the shoulders. Okay, so feeling when the hands slide back, and we're going to move into pigeon pose. So we're going to bring the knees together. This is a good one to kind of figure out how many props you might like, if any, that you want to add. So here's how we could work with this one. Let's see. I'm going to go with 2 blankies. Let's see how this works. It's been a while since I used 2 blankets on this. So I'm going to push them forward from the wall. As awkward as it looks, it is. Yeah. I'm going to slide the right foot forward and bring the knee out, and the left leg is going to push a little bit into the foot at the wall, okay? So I basically use 2 blankets in lieu of a bolster because I can mash them better than a bolster, right? So it's going to be probably a little bit more akin to the hip. So you do want to feel that the left leg has a little freedom. So if it's jammed up to the wall, scoot yourself away and lower down your forearms. And you can use a bolster instead. So let's say you're here and you're feeling you need a little bit more, some help. You can put your bolster under your forehead here. All right, you can slide it. Forehead, you can slide the bolster in closer so you can kind of hug it and let your head turn. This is nice. Yeah, just be aware of how the shoulders respond. So if you're really tightening in your upper back parts, then sliding the hands forward, holding the bolster could be really nice, although it requires a deep hip stretch to do that. So if that's too much to go farther down, you could use your bolster across the mat and kind of just plop the elbows on it. And this works good. So my shoulders don't kind of move up to my ears too far. Okay, so center in. If your left foot is a little bit up at the wall, that's okay. That kind of is an enhancing stride into the hip. Okay, so center the circulation into that right lower part of the hip. Maybe a little bit of movement of the back like cat-cow, rounding and gently arching. See if you can make that very smooth. Just feel alternating motion, gently arching, gently rounding, or keeping it still. Okay, give it a few moments. Now feeling where the leg shape is connected into the knee is out, so it's going to change the circulation clearly across the right side. Now when you lean to your right hip, you're going to come out of this side and just bring your legs forward. Let's say you got a bolster here. It's kind of nice. You can bring your legs on top of it. Take a lift with the chest. Just simple. So of course our back was in this shape. So we're trying to bring some balance into the spine. This looks like basic is all get out, but it's good stuff. Okay. Now when I shift the leg, I'm going to bring the left knee to bending, just like you would in any knee form. The right leg will stretch back. And when I shift the side, I can kind of feel when I go this direction into the pose, it's kind of easier in some ways, but to get it properly hinged into the hip might take you a little bit more doing, okay? So the top of that back thigh is flush down. That's tough to get that. Especially the knee flash, this area tends to roll out. So I have to get this to kind of roll in. Okay. Okay, you probably don't have someone to hold your leg and turn it in. So feel the left knee move out, like that's going to help. And then balance. The wall is pretty nice to have, so you can have something to reinforce that leg guidance. And then you decide, right? Maybe you like a little bit more of an active pigeon pose to start with the hands pushing. This is a really good one for our back, right? Great. This for me is a more comfy selection, although it takes more effort than, you know, kind of slumping into it. So if I can keep doing these muscle memory kind of medleys of spine extension, right, my back will be better off versus rounding. Okay, so feel if your back muscles respond positively. If they don't, you might have to customize it to what you've been told to do, I suppose. We're not giving medical advice here, but you might find, okay, well, that's nice, but this is better for me. So take that path that works for you and then feel connection even through that centerpiece of the body, like pelvis is the center of gravity for you. Kind of feel where the hips. Be careful that you're not pushing too much in one zone. You're spreading the load. So if it's all left hip, it's really tight. You might want to do a little bit of back and forth with your torso, or feel that right foot press into the wall. I like to let the foot lift a little bit. Breathing. Okay, now feel where that right foot lowers. Okay, maybe it's already lowered. Come back, and this time, this should be kind of interesting. What we're going to do is bolster kind of gets pushed a little bit back, and have a block nearby, have a ball. You're going to need your sand. You're going to roll to that left hip, and let's take one blanket. Let's do one blanket policy here. So we're gonna you could unfold it so it's like a very flat, it's a single fold blanket. And I want you to sit so that your right foot, so I'm gonna have it so it's a pretty big blanket piece so that my whole sitting area can sit on it. So there's plenty of surface for me to have it. It's a small lift though. If you need more lift, add the other blanket. Right, that's up to you. You might go, oh, I need more. So since we have that left leg bending, we're going to bring the right foot to the wall. And I want you to feel that you can actually push the wall with your foot. Okay, first things first, push the wall. Okay, foot push. Second thing is the ball under the left knee. So there's a little bit of lift. Yeah, you don't need to bounce the ball with your knee, but don't know if it would bounce around. If your knee touches the ground, it's easy, it doesn't hurt you, then you might be just fine without the ball. But what does hurt mean? Like, does it feel like this whole joint area, this whole capsule is tightening when your knee goes down? Then you're better off here. So I can just see even the circulation here, I kind of round more, so I'm gonna go knee up. Yeah, I'm just working off basics. Sand on the leg. Okay, you choose ball or no ball. And when that left foot is close to the right leg, I'm not worried if it touches it whatsoever. I'm just focusing on that my knee feels comfortable and it's bending. Okay, so lean to that right leg with the right arm. Now you could use a block besides your right leg, right on the outside. So my elbow is onto that block. So the block is right to the side, near fibula. It's not on the inside, that's a bad idea, on the outside or a little farther out if you need that broad reach. You could bring your elbow onto that leg, that's fine, that would be your typical version, but make sure that the toes are straight up. I know, it's like maybe my block would keep my toes straight up. Okay, that's gonna help. Stretch the left arm either over the side of the face or behind your back. Okay, so if you know to be careful on these types of side bends, they're a little different than our side sage. They're more strenuous. So if this is kind of, you just sense it's too much and maybe your very lower thoracic feels challenged, that's a tough area. That comes up for people, that lower thoracic. So you might put your block up on the second setting besides your leg and lean into it. Yeah, you could bring your hand up to your head and tilt. Just be careful here that the back is competent to do this position. You might need 2 blocks stacked. You might need it higher. Okay, so sense the circulation in the side for a moment. Left arm could be behind you, it could be up, as I mentioned. Breathe. If your head is tired, just let your head turn towards the right leg. All the way, just let it rotate so you can work on the feature of the side. Okay, let's make our twist really clean here. So when we come back with the left arm, and then we'll come up, I want you to turn, so you want to feel your right foot, but you're not really turning much, are you? You want to feel your right foot push the wall. This is probably the really important piece, is the foot pushes, but doesn't tighten my hip, the top of the thigh. So I have to really center on my sitting bone, my right seat, then hold the left knee with the right hand, and then feel where your twister is in the mid spine, so thoracic. And closing the eyes so that you don't kind of get ahead of yourself or behind yourself. Right? It's pretty tempting to just keep kind of turning your eyes or your push and push, but feel that the right foot is pressing and the toes are up. Well, yes, they are. Yeah, and don't be afraid to sit more in the right sitting bone. But this can be kind of dominant on the left side because you're holding it. So feel both sitting bones, then feel the breath and try to let the heart lift. And then feel when you rotate. Now, if you rotate and you're really kind of pushing, just focus on ribs moving with breath. So it's kind of less force. Okay, now back off with the hand behind you. So bring the left hand to the right hand. This is kind of a nice tactic. So it looks kind of fun too. So left hand on right hand, and you're trying to lift the chest. I know, lift the heart. Okay, and then get a feeling of relaxing your pressure and turning forward. And let's stay aiming towards the right foot. So you're going to move your sand off of the legs, pivot. So you're pivoting towards the wall. And I want you to take the right leg over the left, cross the left foot over the right leg, and then interlace your fingers below the left knee and just simply work on upright. Now the foot of the wall could be a bit of a task here, how you push into it. So just having it touching the wall is fine. Toes are up. And feeling how the support is in the back muscles. Okay, now relaxing that pose, bring the left foot forward, feel both feet to the wall, little bend of the knees, lift of the heart. Okay, we'll go to the second side. So right foot slides to the inside of the left thigh. Don't worry about it holding there. It doesn't have to stay touching. What's important is you shift your weights and you bring the right knee open. The left foot, however, has to stay toes up. And then my ball is under my right knee. Okay. My sand is on the top of the right thigh. Sorry. And then I'm going to lean to that left side and feel like this right quadrant of my waist feels a tug. So I'm going to use a block besides my left leg. And then use that as a placer for my hand and lean into it. Right side of the torso. Now you might be surprised at the differences on this torso selection, right? The circulation selection in the torso. And just feeling where the weight is in the hips. Okay, you don't have to use a ball under the knee and you don't have to move your arm towards the wall. So your right arm, that is. So it's up to you. I sometimes like to just touch the right side lateral right of my back next to this QL area and use my knuckles and kind of just rub into that area and move downwards towards my hip and massage that zone. Not trying to force it any direction, like furthering my flexibility, but just focus on circulation there. Okay, and so when you lean into it, breathing Right, really use the breath to form movement inside the skin, right? So it's getting to that connective tissue. Deep, slow breath. Okay, now feel how you gently lift up center, left hand to the right leg, could be knee, it could be thigh. Right hand down to the floor and turn. Okay, so you don't have to round your back to get your hand on the floor, but you might find that you need circulation in the lower rib. So it's going to be connecting to more abdominal area when you turn. I guess you could say midrib is abdominal too, but we're just going to focus on that lower band of the belly to move with the breath. I don't mean the lower band of the belly to twist. We have to be careful with that because we want the thoracic, so it's going to be above your lumbar, where you feel a rib connect, right? That's a thoracic vertebrae, right? It's connected to the ribs. So then you know, okay, that's where I can twist, but this lower area can stay sitting and stable, but keeping the belly moving with the breath. Shoulder back. Okay, right hand on left hand. And a prim and proper upright. Slide the sand off. And then bring that weight to center to the wall. Right leg over left leg, crossing. Hands to the just below the right knee and interlace the fingers. And noticing that you're doing more pulling with the upper body than you are with the action of the foot pushing the wall. That's kind of subtle. It's just the toes are stretched up. Okay. So get the feel of how the shoulders, they kind of bound up in this position. They're not necessarily, they're muscular into the arms. Okay, so let's flush out the legs. So we're going to uncross to that right foot, grasp onto your bolster, and uncross the legs, kind of unfold through that position, and take a blanket, and you're going to fold it. I think you should have a good quarter fold, and just toss it to the other side. You can make it perfect when you get there. Okay, so scoot in the bolster. Have a ball near you, have a block. I don't know how many blocks you really are going to need exactly in this moment, but when you try to do this pattern, so you actually use your elbows, bending, lift up to sit on the bolster, but you're really right onto the very edge of it here. And then you're going to lower back and let the legs go up. Okay, so some people will sit directly up on the bolster, but the thing about the bolster is you want your seat kind of far forward on it. You don't want it on the floor, but you definitely aren't going to be very happy if your bolster is too far down. Constantly will find that that's an issue. Right? If my bolster is this far down, it just hurts my back. So I want my tush close to the edge so I can feel it on the edge. Ball between the knees. Blanket is satisfactory. Our new word today is satisfactory. All right. I hope we're having a satisfactory experience here. So knees are squeezing the ball, and bring the feet straight up. Flush out the legs. Take time to squirm here. This is a good squirming one till you get it right. You have to adapt your clothing pieces to this one. Okay. Legs are up and knees are, you could, maybe you can't see your knees because they're covered, but you notice there's a little bit of a hinge, a little bit of a bend. And I want you to just slowly, like you're kind of drawing a little dot on your knees, little dot. You want to squeeze into the ball. So you've got to make the ball in a good spot. I don't like it anywhere near my inner thigh, like whatsoever on this one. I almost have it, if I was to just look at my knees, it's really in between them. And now squeeze that ball with a little bend of the knees. Not a lot though. Okay. Now kind of feel how your tailbone kind of bears down to the bolster. That is kind of an idea here with the focus is tailbone presses. Okay. Now just bend the knees, full bend, feet kind of lower. They just relax. Arms are out. You got all kinds of stuff around you probably, so just push it away. Arms open, knees side to side. If you don't like where your ball is between them, you can always move it higher or lower. Should be comfortable for you. Definitely not for me. Don't make it comfortable for anyone but you. Okay. So satisfy or satisfactor in the movement of knees side to side. Feel that when you move them to one side, you're also stretching down through the tail, through the torso, and the waist. Waist work is so good. Yeah, so feel the knees go side to side. You decide if they're going towards the floor or they're going towards your arm. You have to be the decider on that one because sometimes I like that scoop where I move it towards my arm. I think I prefer that generally, but moving it towards the floor, for some people might feel better. Just depends on the day. Or not the day, it doesn't matter if it's day or night or whatever, just the moment. Okay. If I swing the knees over and up, then I can start to feel my back stretching all the way to my shoulder blades. Okay, last time, just kind of feel that movement hooking of the knee pushing gently. It's not a big squeeze anymore. Now I'm telling you, no big squeeze on the ball. Just use it as a spacer. Okay, and then center and feel kind of the shoulders roll down and in like you have an imaginary, like a little board between them that you're trying to hug the blades in towards to hook under to really keep the broadness of the heart. Okay. Now, as you bring the knees in closer to your chest, you're going to remove the ball and reach for the belt. Okay. Do you know where your sand is? Maybe. Okay, it's somewhere. So let's first things first. We're gonna have the big loop, have the loop across your chest here. Let the left foot step down and then take a sandbag and place so the sandbag's gonna lie straight down on that leg. So you're gonna push down the sandbag over that left thigh. Okay. And then the right leg is bending, right here. So get a belt. This makes it a little more challenging, but since we're towards the end of class, we're gonna do this challenge because we're probably warmed up by now. So if you have this leg pushing down, trying to get the right leg in is a little tough because now you're only left with one hip to do this. So see if you can bring that foot into the belt. If you have to kind of lasso it in, toss it up and you might get it. Okay, so after we've all tried it a bit, my left foot isn't touching the wall. It just didn't work out. But some of you might be that lucky. Okay. Have the loop so that it's small enough that you can put the belt behind your head, not your neck, right? So this is way too big of a loop. All right, better to have a bigger loop than a smaller loop for this one. You can always tighten it up. So once I reach it to my crown of my head, that's about my measurement. It touches the crown with the leg up. Okay, and then you can scoop up the occiput scooping. Okay, I know it's just a skull. So when you have that lift, you might find definitely it's not on my neck. Very important, it's not on my neck. And my foot can twitch back and forth. It's kind of fun to do a little foot twitching, kind of recentering my legs straight up. The skin's going to go the opposite direction. It goes all day. It's so good for your lymph drain. This is good stuff. So our final kind of work today is going to be inversions, kind of lymph drainage. And so we just spend some time in this one. That's it. Don't have to use the ball. You let your spine enable that length, right, through the left side of the back down through the leg. And then it balances from the right side of the back down through that whole lift of the right leg. If the belt feels too tight, too snug, you can loosen it up. Sometimes more snug is better because you don't kind of drop out of the pose, you don't tense as much. So I want to reinforce that my belt is connected and that it's not sliding. So if you have a sliding belt, it's probably because the grid isn't exposed. You want the belt loop to go through that, the gridded part, so it holds. You're opening up through the hamstring. If it's too much on your back, you can always bend the left knee. Even just a slight bend might be good. What happens when you do that, though, is generally your head's going to challenge the belt a bit. You might push the belt down to the neck. So little things do affect kind of the whole experience. And I don't mind that because now it feels like my head lowers down. I'm going to try to keep my left leg extending though. Okay, now let's shift sides. So I want you to slide the sand onto the torso and then bring your left foot up into the belt. Maybe hold the back of your head so things don't slide away. And then bring the right leg down. So this side we're going into it backwards. I don't think there is backwards on this. There's just different entry into it. Sand on top of the right thigh. And you could put it up higher. I just have to go with the moment and go, okay, this feels just fine. I just kind of smooth it out on the leg until it responds so the leg centers. Now the right foot might pivot out more on one side. So your work is interesting for your foot part. So if you notice you're feeling the foot rotate, you're pushing on the side of the heel, then maybe step the right foot a little bit out to the side so the toes are more up. And then your head is into the belt. Just the right amount of traction. The head leans back. Arms relax out. Shoulders can center down. Your arms could be low. They could be open. You decide. Feel the torso moving with the breath. Noticing if the foot pushes, how that affects your circulation in your neck. If your head pushes down, you kind of find the randomness of this till you feel like that center of the pose. It's all pretty random anyway, but I'm just feeling when we shift over our final little pattern is going to be a hip crossover. But I think we should really customize it individually. So I'm going to give two versions of this. They're quite different. So I'll show kind of the first version on the bolster when I'm on it. And then I'm going to end up doing the version with the bolster besides me. But I want you just to see, because you need to decide what your leg muscles respond to right now in the end of class. So slide the sand away, hold the belt, slide it off your head, and then hold the belt with the right hand, cross the left leg to the right. Now this is version 1. So it would be this side, right with belt and leg, and then we'll get to the other side. So those of you that want to do the belt are just going to stay with that. And then when I cue you to go to the other side in about 2 minutes, then you'll go. So that's a long pull with the bolster under. Now, second option would be bring your knees into your chest, push the bolster over to the right side of your mat. You can add a blanket on it or not. And then the left leg will cross over to the bolster, and you'll use a ball on the lower base, right up the sacrum to the gluteal fold. And then you'll add your sand maybe to your outer left leg. That's a choice, right? The belt is the other option. Now, if you use a belt, I don't think a sandbag is a very intelligent option for me because it would be too much strain, but some of you might like that. So the belt is the one option that some of you might be stay with, but this is second option. I'll stay on this option. I prefer it. But the belt, maybe you like staying up on the bolster. So feel the leg has crossed over, whether it's being yanked on or it has a sandbag on it. Feel your head turn to the left side. And just give it a little bit of time. If you're using the belt and you're getting really exhausted with it, bend the knee, maybe take the leg out to the left side, and then back across. And we'll catch up with you in a moment. So feel how the hip is centered and crossed over to engage in that left glute. And feel the movement of breathing when the body finds that stillness. Those of us with sand, slide it away. Those that have the belt, you're going to bring the leg back center. And then you'll switch legs. So switching legs without the belt, we just shift into our pelvis neutral and then take the bolster to the left side. Those of you that have the bolster under your pelvis, we'll switch the legs. So the right foot would be in the belt, cross it over to the left side. The left hand holds the belt, cross it over. And those of us with the bolster, the right leg crosses over to the left. Okay, add the ball, add the sand. Though if you are with the belt and you're getting a little bit confused about direction, remember you're on the bolster and you've got your belt under that right foot and you're crossing it over to the left. Those of you with the belt, holding with the left hand. So that's important to recognize. Now, if I cross over here with the sand on my outer leg, I think the ball it's kind of an option, right? It's not required. It might not really help some people on it. It's a good anchor. But keeping that chest open with the right arm. So if I'm holding the belt with the left hand, I still can move my right arm out. And feel where your head rolls to the right. Breathing. Opening the chest. Still feels like it could use more, right? It definitely seizes up with our actions during class, other things we do where we have to use the chest muscles to go inwards. Now, if you're holding with the belt, you want to swing the leg out and back across. This is a good time for that. So you can stretch the inner thigh. Those of us with the leg crossed over to the bolster, feel when you move the ball aside and the sand to the right and push it towards the wall. Just gently nudge it there. And now let's all roll it over towards the side. So if you're at the belt, just put it aside, bring the knees into your chest. And those of us on the floor without the bolster under us can roll to the side. And then come down so that your bolster gets pushed up to the wall next to it flat. Slide in your blanket. And then we're going to take a Viparita Karani. So we're going to sit next to right at the wall, actually, on top of the bolster. And then you'll push your tush, your sitting bones to the wall, like you're trying to suddenly try to get upside down, which is kind of true. And when you're on the very edge of your bolster, you can almost never be on the edge of it enough. And then you'll swing the legs upside down and slide the blanket in first, and then try to get your hips closer towards the center of the bolster. Doesn't mean you got to get them closer to the wall or your legs, but the body is centered on the bolster might be helpful. Take a sandbag, optional, on the soles of the feet. Feel where there's lift of the legs, and there's especially length into the lower leg part. So you got to feel where the hips balance right onto the bolster, weight bearing into the hips and the lumbar spine. Okay. You can feel where the shoulders just center back and the arms are below the level of the heart. Feel the elbows kind of glide their way to a little bit of openness, like the inside line of the elbows rests down into the stretch of the lower arm parts. Maybe open and close the fingers. And then feel when they relax. And join your breath. Feel how you join the circulation in the body via the breath. So that's mentally kind of joining with the breath. Kind of taking the final pose to center. Maybe this is the only time you felt you were joining your breath at the end. Reversing the effects of gravity to the heart, to the lungs. Scanning where the body touches the ground. So that would be the back body. And where there's parts that are kind of flung upside down. And taking them out of their, what you might call normal track of presence, which usually they're below you, is quite revitalizing, right, for your circulatory system, right, and your immune system, right? It's revitalizing. Get upside down. Bend the knees. And then once you feel the knees bending, shift the feet away from the wall. You might open your eyes if they're closed and then guide the hands up to the sand as the knees bend and slide it or toss it overhead. And take a moment just to feel how the spine stretches before we come up. Just a moment is important to attend to that length kind of weaving from the knees bending into the bulk of the back body. It's a great stretch for the digestive tract, A little bit of leg pressure towards the core. And feel if you can kind of ooze to one side, not just plunking your bones in a heap, but kind of feel like you ooze over. So part of you maybe goes left, but most of you goes right. And then you kind of find a way to ooze the ooze, and then come around to sitting. Balance the spine up out of the pelvis and feel where the shoulders motion back to the wall. Lift the hands up in front of the heart. Take a deep breath into that space behind your heart. And exhale, bowing into your heart.